All right, welcome back. Over here we have the chop saw, right? Similar to the radial arm saw. You got the chop saw to cut your stick lumber, right? Now you can see this is a lot more maneuverable, right? Has your angles here. You could also do bevel cuts, right? So you could change the saw to go this way, and left, right. So 2 directions, right? This particular one has some sliding action, right, to cut bigger boards. You have the switch up here, which you have to push this in, right, and click the trigger, right. Now with these, like you holding the trigger, and if you let go, the blade will slow down. Unlike the other ones where you push the button, it stays on until you push it off, right? So you gotta, once you're cutting, you gotta keep the trigger going, right? So let's say that's not how you would mark a board, but let's say that's what I was cutting, right? And like I said, same principle, right? Because you're cutting this board, you want this side, right, this edge, to be against the fence, right? So that's good. You bring the saw away from the material, start the trigger. And you cut all the way through, right? And then you bring the blade up, scrap, and then you have the piece that you're going to keep. Now, this particular, the way to adjust, the different types of, they're called compound miter saws. They're all usually controlled in the front. So this one has a locking knob and a little lever to adjust the angle. And then as you can see, there's the gauge. Right. So say you're cutting, like a picture frame or some sort of trim. Imagine like the trim in your bedroom or around a door. That's what I mean when I say trim, is like that little decorative element that goes around a window, a door, something like that, right? So I've set my angle, locked everything in, turn this, right? It's all good to go. Same thing as if you're cutting straight, but you're sort of leaning a little way, but that's no big deal, right? Start the saw. And then push up, trash. And now you have that piece, right? So that's pretty much the chop saw. There's nothing too crazy about it. You have here a little hold down. So if you're cutting something kind of funny, or if you have like a jig set up, you'd want to clamp it down, right? This is the same setup we have on the radial arm saw, but if you were to cut a bunch of boards at the same size, like over and over, like say you needed 100 of something, 100 pieces of 1x3 at a certain size, you'd set up a stop block, right? So say that's my number, lock this in, and without measuring and marking, if I just put the board, put it against the stop, and make my cut, it's the same board over and over. Now, if you are doing that sort of task, maybe every 10 boards you just want to double check that this hasn't moved, this hasn't gotten loose or anything, Generally, if you're cutting, say, like legs for a platform, that little difference isn't going to make a difference. But so depending on what you're cutting, sort of dictates how often you check. Your sort of level of inaccuracy changes. So that's the stop block. Usually just stays back there. There's a little vacuum down here which goes to the back. That has to be plugged in separately, turned on separately. So that's pretty much the chop saw.